Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. And today, we have another set of crazy revenge stories for you. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave comments so we know what kind of stories you love the most. A long time ago, I got my revenge on an a-hole regional ski salesman. The year was 1979. I was a local ski instructor as a winter high school job. I also competed in some local giant slalom races. Well, I had a larger, more regional meet coming up in a few months. A friend of my parents worked for a very prestigious ski company. He happened to be over for a dinner party and found out that I was a skier and offered me a pro deal on a pair of the most advanced skis the company made. I was able to get what would have been $500 skis for $160, and those are 1979 prices. I wrote him a check that night and gave him the specs on the length and type. He said I should have them delivered to me in a week or two. 2 weeks go by and nothing. I call their main office and speak with Bob. Bob assures me that the skis will be at my place in a week. Another week goes by and nothing. Now I'm getting a bit worried as I still need to get them to the shop and get bindings installed before my meet in West Virginia. I call Bob again. Bob's not so nice this time. He starts questioning how I could get a pro deal. I let him know that I work at a resort instructing and I regularly go to local meets. I also tell him I'll be at a meet in a few weeks in West Virginia. He laughs and says, I'll ship them if I feel like it and can find the time in the next week or two. His reasoning is that he doesn't think a pro can come out of a Midwestern state. I calmly tell him that I will cost him and his company far more than $160 and that he's to return my money within 3 days. He laughs and hangs up. At the least, he did send a check back within 3 days. So I walked into the resort ski shop with a check from the company in my pocket, and yes, they'd already deposited my check and sent nothing. A rep for a different top-of-the-line manufacturer was showing the owner their latest GS ski. Fred asked how I was, and I told him I was mad as hell. The story came out, and the Dynastar rep heard the whole thing. The Dynastar rep asked me if I had the check on me. I told him, yeah. He said, sign it over to Dynastar. I did. He handed me the GS skis he'd been showing Fred and said, they're yours now. You don't mind, do you, Fred? Fred just smiled and asked me if I wanted some bindings for my new skis installed at cost. Needless to say, I was thrilled. I later learned that the list price on those skis was almost $700. Now for the revenge. From that day on, I made sure to tell a very short version of this story to every single beginner class I taught. The reputation of that manufacturer got so bad at that resort, Fred stopped carrying their product. Fred told me to drop by the shop on X day. Can't remember the exact day, as the first company's regional rep was coming in to find out why he was no longer carrying their skis. I laid out the entire story to the rep. His face visibly turned red, but he kept his cool. He apologized and thanked me for the information. I thought that was the end of the issue. Several months later, about a month or two before the start of the next ski season, I was at a winter sports expo. The friend of the family was there and recognized me. He asked if I still wanted that pro deal as he could guarantee that I got it this time. I said, really? How can you guarantee it this time? He told me Bob had been fired within days of me telling the regional manager my predicament. I also found out that their brand had been the top-selling brand at Fred's shop before all this started. I cost the company a hell of a lot of money, and I cost Bob his job. I told him that I'd make sure his antics cost him more than $160, and that was a promise I was happy to keep. And our next story. Block my promotion? I'll end your careers. So I serve as an EMT in my community and have been at this particular department for the past 10 years. I currently serve as its first lieutenant. Now the next rank is deputy chief. This is something I'd been working towards for years. Years of training and experience brought me to the point where I'm eligible for this rank. Not only that, but I'm coming up for a military review board hearing where my community service is going to be a factor in if I'm approved in upgrading my status and being eligible for ROTC and re-entering the military. Holding the rank of deputy chief would certainly be a plus to the board. Now, the currently chief and deputy chief happen to be married. The deputy chief in the past year had back surgery. It's been discussed that due to this, she probably shouldn't continue on in her position. She would abstain from real action for 2018 and allow me to take her place. If she doesn't run, I'm literally the only other person qualified to hold the position. Apart from the chief, her and I have discussed this at length, and she's very aware of how important it is to me. Finally, we come to the elections. I suppose you can guess where this is going. After almost a year of planning, discussing, and promising, at the last minute, she's nominated by her husband, accepts the nomination, and is elected, beating me by only a few votes. I sat there fuming. The chief in D.C. wouldn't even look at me. After as much as it meant to me, the help it would have given me with the military board, the years put in, they effed me. I was going to get them back, so I started looking for dirt. After about a month, I found my smoking gun. I'll save you the long, boring story of how I came to find it, but I will say I looked through a great many call reports and talked to the right people. Remember when I mentioned that DC had surgery? Well, she was on disability from her paid job at a telecom company for several months. Also, being on and collecting disability there, she couldn't ride the squad. Well, I found reports where her name was present over and over. But the strange thing was, some reports had her signature, as I know it, and others were clearly forged. Where I live, in order for an ambulance call to be billable to insurance, the ambulance needs to be staffed by 2 EMTs. You can still roll an ambulance without 2 EMTs, but you can't bill insurance for it. I investigated this and learned that the chief had been signing his wife's signature on calls he took with only 1 EMT, so it appeared 2 had been there. The dates, however, coincide with when she was still in recovery, physically unable to be there. Additionally, I learned that while she was recovering, she did take a number of calls while still collecting disability from her desk job at telecom company. Not only was her husband, the chief, committing insurance fraud, billing insurance by forging her signature, she too was committing disability fraud. There was evidence for days. I had what I needed. The revenge. I met with the department attorney and presented my evidence. Together, we contacted the State Department of Health, whom governs our ability to bill. We contacted our billing company, and we contacted DC's employer. Both the chief and deputy chief's EMT certifications have been suspended pending outcome to the DOH's investigation. I'm told one or both will have their certifications revoked. DC has been terminated from her job for defrauding the company on disability. DC must pay back every dime she collected from disability while she was on it. They've both been terminated from our department. This has resulted in my promotion to acting chief until a special election next month, which I'm the only one qualified to run for chief. The dominoes are still falling. They're both looking at criminal charges. The fraud amounted to over $40,000 worth of billing to insurance companies. Her disability paid her over $60,000. I do feel a little bad, but at the end of the day, no one forced them to commit fraud. Holy cow, dude. That was a great bit of investigative work. And our next story. I could just resign? Okay. Public servant here, with many years of well-respected service. I've moved up the ranks to senior manager. Great boss, great role, kicking goals. So my boss announces he's leaving and tells me who's replacing him. Literally the last person in the whole organization that I would want to work for. But maybe it'll be okay. It's not okay. New guy transfers in, and from the get-go, he's targeting me. I'm 7 months pregnant, and my whole unit are on fixed-term contracts. I've been planning a restructure and huge recruitment wave to make positions ongoing. The final proposal was all planned, costed, documented, and on the old boss's desk the day he quit. Still crappy that he didn't sign off on it, but he didn't feel that it was right to do that just before leaving, because he has integrity. So instead of just accepting that I knew what the heck I was doing and signing off on the recruitment plan, the new boss questioned everything. Not strategic questions by someone worthy of an executive role, just pissy short-sighted questions. It becomes abundantly clear that what he wants is for me to write roles that his boys from his last division could slot right into. He literally used one of his favorites as the example of what we needed more of, despite that being the opposite of what any half-sane manager would realize we actually needed. He asks me 0 questions about my current people, but does offer me the benefit of his observations of them, having never worked with them before now. Suffice to say, his opinions are that all of my people are crap. Now, this is despite us having been so successful that we secured a huge new government funding grant and also increased our performance by 10 times in the last 18 months. I led the unit. But yeah, we're still crap. So I spend a month chasing down this clown's every fickle whim. I redo the structure half a dozen times. I write, rewrite, and rewrite again the role descriptions. I sit him down to try to explain the need, the logic, etc. I get others to try and get it through his head, and on and on. Meanwhile, I'm getting more and more stressed. Eventually, I crack. I realize he's just going to keep toying with me, and I'm just making me and my baby sick with stress, for nothing. I go on early maternity leave. Before I go on leave, I ask the new boss for a particular piece of discretionary financial support that lots of managers have been offered before. He literally laughs in my face, then tells me the only way I'll get what I'm asking for is to resign. So I go on maternity leave early, frustrated but unsure of my next move. I then see an ad for a far superior role, an executive role, in fact, in a better organization. I apply, interview just after giving birth, and get the job. 25% pay raise, autonomy, respect, and the ability to set the culture and strategic direction for half of the new organization. I've also been referee to 3/4 of my old staff because they're all leaving, and it's getting to the point where that massive government grant program doesn't have anyone left who knows how to run it. Kiss my butt, Damien. People named Damien almost always screw it up for everybody else. If your name's Damien, I'm sorry, but it's real crap. And our short story as dessert. Enjoy playing loud music every weekend? Let me insert a little something into your enjoyment. A-hole neighbors have a habit of turning music right up loud every weekend. With a shared ceiling, thin walls, and their tendency to go off and threaten us when we ask them to turn it down, I found a tiny, simple solution yesterday. Switched 4G off, got my phone on edge, and browsed through some heavy sites while moving it around the wall. Bingo! Found a place that makes that delicious zzz, zit, zzz, zit, zzz of an edge connection through their speakers. And let it do its thing. Radio went off within 5 minutes, and every time it goes back up again, here comes the edge. Bliss. Haven't heard it above a murmur since. Practical revenge. Well done. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.